All right, we are live. Good morning, everybody. A little earlier than usual today, but we've got some news to talk about. Woke up about 3:30 this morning to find that Israel has reportedly, assassinated the number one leader of Hamas outside of Gaza, Ismail Haniyeh. Now, this is a developing story, so some of the details may change as we get more information. But what I've been told is, or what we're seeing is that Ismail Haniyeh, number one, first of all, he's the political head of Hamas. He's the face of Hamas outside of Gaza. Yahya Sinwar is the overall commander of Hamas inside Gaza, commanding the day-to-day military activities against Israel. But Ismail Haniyeh was the head of the organization. He's one of those billionaires that had gotten very rich off of aid money being sent to Gaza, and he was living in Qatar, traveling around luxury hotels and things like that. And he was in Tehran, apparently, to attend, what was it? Let's see here. I'll look at my notes. It was he was attending I don't see what he was there for, some ceremony. I've didn't write it down. But anyway, he was in Tehran. Apparently, he has a luxury home in Tehran. And there was some video that came out yesterday of him hugging the new president of Iran. So I think the Israelis sort of figured out that he was there and struck him with an airstrike about 2 o'clock in the morning, Tehran time, in his home as he was sleeping there, killing him and apparently one of his bodyguards. Were the only people there. Now, Israel, for its part, has not admitted to this. They don't usually admit to this, so that's not surprising. And they likely won't ever admit to it, but I mean, the guy just evaporated and immediately assumed room temperature. So it's a very good guess that it was likely the Israelis that had something to do with that. Make sense? They have said many times since October 7th that they would kill all of the leadership of Hamas. And there you go. It looks like they made good on that promise. Now, I just want to point out that of the top 5 leaders in Hamas, 3 of them are now dead. Ismail Haniyeh, number 1. Yahya Sinwar is not dead yet, that we know of, still in Gaza, and is going to be their top priority target, most likely moving forward. Number 3, Mohammed Deif. Deif was killed in an airstrike in Khan Yunis on the 13th of July. Now, I have to caveat that by saying that Hamas still claims that Deif is alive. Israel claims they have proof enough that he's dead to believe that he's been eliminated. So I'm just going over here and make sure I've got comments. Let's see here. There we go. Yeah, live by the sword, die by the sword. That's right, Pastora Raela. And that was Ismail Haniyeh in a nutshell. This is a guy who has been on the United States list of international terrorists since 2018, but he's been a terrorist for a long time before that. Haniyeh was born in Gaza. He was the leader of Hamas in Gaza from like around 2006. Oh, it was a swearing in of the new president. Thank you. This is what I like about the chat. If I forget something, you guys always, you can go look it up and remind me. Yeah, that's right. He was apparently in Tehran for the swearing in of the new president of Iran. And they got him, it looks like. Now, you ever think about this? You know, if you're a terrorist, what must it be like to know that any second, out of the blue sky, your house might just evaporate with you in it? I remember going to one of my trips to Iraq, one of my many trips to Iraq during the war, and I was in a bunker, a control center, a headquarters, where they had screens on the walls, and they had a bunch of people watching those screens, and they were flying drones all around, and they were watching a guy who was a known IED maker. And this guy was, this is just south of Baghdad, I believe. They were watching this guy as he went around and collected the components to make roadside bombs. So he'd stop at one place and get some propane tanks, and then he'd stop at another place and get some fertilizer, and then, things like that. So they were following him around, and they were asking for permission to just smoke the guy. And the permission has to come from somewhere way above them. And so they have to go up and up and up the chain of command. And by the time the permission got back down to the chain of command, he was in his house. He had gone home. And so they're like, well, now we don't want to drop a bomb on his house because there might be women and children in the house, and we can't rule out that. So we're not going to blow him up now. But they said he's still got all the bomb-making materials in his car, which is outside his house, parked outside his house. So, why don't we just blow up his car for him? So that's what they did. They ordered a strike from an attack helicopter, which doesn't even come close enough for him to hear it. I mean, it's miles away. And that thing just sort of super elevates and shoots a Hellfire missile. And they had the drone, lasing the target, putting a laser beam on that car. And the missile just follows the laser beam right down. And all of a sudden, this guy's car just absolutely evaporates in his front yard. And we're watching all this on the video. Now, I'm just thinking, can you imagine the conversation that's going on in that guy's house right now? Right before that happened, his wife is like, did you pay the insurance for the car this month? Because you keep forgetting to pay the car insurance. And if you don't pay the car insurance, they're going to come, they're going to come get that car. And all of a sudden, whoa, this huge explosion outside the house. And they look out the window, there's no car left. It's gone. It's just, completely evaporated. And there's a crater where your car used to be. That's got to be kind of a strange feeling. And we actually watched them after the car blew up. We could see people stick their head out the windows, like looking around, like, what just happened? Just imagine being a terrorist, and that's your day-to-day life. Well, I guess he got what was coming to him. This is a guy who we don't need to go down the litany of his crimes. He has been very, very, without a doubt, let's see. I think I'm on the wrong. No, I'm good. Well, that's interesting. Huh. Okay, so we got 700 people watching. While I've got you, please hit the like button and share this broadcast and get your friends to come watch it. And YouTube will show it to a lot of people that haven't seen our channel before, who might be able to benefit from up to the minute live news commentary on this site from wars and disasters around the globe. That's what I do. It's my specialty. I've been war correspondent for more than 20 years. And so please share this broadcast. You can also go to chuckholton.com and you can subscribe over there. I've been putting videos up over there that I cannot show you on YouTube. YouTube has pretty tight rules about what I can and cannot show you. And I'll get demonetized in a heartbeat if I show you some of the videos from some of the most recent events that we've been talking about. For example, yesterday I talked about on CBN's YouTube channel the fiasco of an election in Venezuela and what that means for the United States. There's a lot of violent protests and things going on over there right now. So you can subscribe over at chuckholton.com. There's some subscriber-only content. There's also some supporter-only content, subscriber-only content, whatever. You don't have to pay to do that, but you can if you feel so led. You can shoot me $7 or something, and I can get a cup of coffee with that. We help keep us in the field doing what we do. Okay, now we're going to look here at a map, and I'm going to show you what likely happened yesterday or this morning, I guess. You see Tehran way over here. Okay, so here's Tehran. It's very likely that the missile that took out Ismail Haniyeh was fired from somewhere in this region over here. It was fired from the area around Erbil in northern Iraq by a IDF F-35 fighter. That would be my guess. Didn't necessarily have to be an F-35, but an F-35 is the right choice if you're trying to evade radar and if you're going to go into a neighboring country and don't want them to know about it. So they flew all the way from Israel over here, flew over Jordan or Syria into Iraq, and likely fired the missile from somewhere near the border between Iraq and Iran. It's possible that they entered Iranian airspace if it was an F-35 and the Iranians didn't know about it, but if the range of the missiles should have been sufficient that they could have fired from northern Iraq and hit Tehran without too much problem. And they're not going to get a lot of pushback from northern Iraq because that's Kurdistan. The government of Iraq has already come out and condemned this, as has Syria, as has Turkey up here. Of course, Lebanon and Hezbollah has condemned it. You would expect all of that to happen. Turkey the other day, President Erdogan threatened Israel by saying that they might be willing to send troops to Israel if Israel goes too hard against Hamas in retaliation for the strike in northern Israel that killed 12 children on a soccer field that happened last week. Now, we have seen a response from Israel on that. It's been very targeted and I'm going to get to that in a minute. But let's finish up on what's going on with Ismail Haniyeh. Now, I'll go back to my camera here. So he was killed in a pre-dawn airstrike in Tehran. He lives in Qatar, but he has a house in Tehran, apparently. Here's an interesting tidbit. His house in Tehran, according to Amir Tsarfati, was only 150 meters. That's about 300 feet. About 450 feet from the house of the new president of Iran. And so it's not unlikely that the missile that took out Ismail Haniyeh's house might have broken a few windows in the house of the president of Iran. Now that's pretty serious. And it also shows you just how accurate Israeli precision fires are. They likely knew which window the missile would go through in the residence that they struck, and were not worried about accidentally striking the president's house. But it certainly would have woken him up, let's put it that way. 150 meters from the president's house is pretty serious. And the Ayatollah Khomeini, the supreme leader of Iran, has already released a statement calling for a very forceful, direct response from Iran. And so I would say that it is not unlikely that we will see another strike coming out of Iran aimed at Israel in the coming days. Now, the senior leaders of Iran, including the leader of the IRGC Quds Force, Brigadier General Ismail Haniyeh, they're currently attending an emergency meeting of the Supreme National Security Council at the Supreme Leader's residence, which happens only in very extraordinary circumstances. So they're huddling up and saying, what are we going to do about this? So now there was one report that said that this missile might have been fired from a submarine. That's not as likely as an airplane. And then there were other reports that came out and said it was an airplane firing a missile. So that's what we know about that. Now, there have been two other strikes that may get buried by this news, because this is such big news. I mean, killing the head, the number one guy of Hamas, is big news around the world today. And it may drown out some other important news about the war in Israel that you need to know. First of all, Israel also struck Beirut, Lebanon, the capital of Lebanon, and killed the military affairs advisor, senior military affairs advisor to Hassan Nasrallah, a guy named Fouad Shukr. Now, this is in retaliation for the Hezbollah rocket that killed the 12 children in Maid al-Shams. And it's interesting how they did this. Israel came out and sort of basically threatened another guy named Ali Mohammed Yehye, who's the commander of the Cheba area from which the missile was launched. But by doing that, it sort of caused the leadership of Hezbollah to have to move around and try to get out of that area or whatever. And it allowed Israel to figure out where Fouad Shukr was and take him out in it looked like a high-rise apartment building in Beirut, Lebanon. Now, Fouad Shukr, for his part, he was wanted by the United States. He's on the terror watch list. And don't think that didn't play a role in the decision to take this guy out, because Israel is not going to get a lot of pushback from the United States if they're taking out people that the U.S. has been pursuing for many years. As a matter of fact, this guy has been on the terrorist watch list for 41 years, and the United States has been unable to find him. It took Israel about 3 days to lure him out into the open and then smoke the guy. So that's significant. It also is, again, kicking that hornet's nest in Lebanon. And so we've got two top leaders, one from Hezbollah, one from Hamas, who've been killed in the last 10 hours. I would say that makes it all but certain that there will be a coordinated, perhaps, massive attack on Israel in the next 48 hours or so. One other strike that happened that you may not have heard about was the United States also carried out a strike on, well, it was their Hashishabi, it's Iranian-backed militia in Iraq on Tuesday. So Iraqi police and medical sources said the strike inside a base south of Baghdad was used by Iraq's popular mobilization forces, that's the Hashishabi, and killed 4 members of the group, which contains several armed militias that are allied with Iran, and also wounded other people on the base. So this is normally, let's go back to this map over here. So on the map, normally the attacks that the United States has been making on popular mobilization units in Iraq, now there hasn't been one since February that we know of, but most of those would have been up here in the north, or even going into Syria down in this area, okay? Because this is the area from which the PMUs have been firing rockets and missiles at our bases. We have bases along the Euphrates River basin here. And so, when they fire at our bases, we shoot back at them, and that's been over here. This attack was south of Baghdad, clear over here, much closer to the center of Iraq, the capital of Iraq, and to the Iranian border over this way. So that's pretty significant. Okay, now let's go back to my camera here. If you don't recall what this guy looks like, I'll show you. Well, that's not it. Where's my... There it is. Okay, this is Ismail Haniyeh meeting with Erdogan from Turkey. So the guy on the left there, that's him. Oh, sorry, I had a little too much audio. This guy has been in the news a lot. Now, I just wanted to show you that so you get a sense of who we're talking about if you didn't know who I was talking about already. But now I want to go over and answer some questions. Let's see if we can pull up the chat box here. Looks like One Tired Mama is wielding the... she's wielding the power glove over here. Thank you, One Tired Mama. I didn't figure you'd be awake yet. I appreciate you. You don't have to get up at 3 o'clock in the morning if you don't want to do this. But I do appreciate it. Okay. If you have a question, write the word question. Is that rooster half cocked? No, this rooster is Black Rifle Coffee rooster. It's a Tacticock, and it has a suppressed weapon and night vision goggles. is that really the only question I've got here? Do you think this is angering Russia more? We know that Ezekiel says about the hook in the jaw. Russia did come out and condemn this attack already, said it was, I think, irresponsible, and it's going to make things worse in the region. I don't think anybody is arguing that it's not going to make things worse in the region. I think everyone knows that it has to get worse in the region before it gets better. Question, what's this Hamas leader, the top dog, or they know who will replace him? So yes, he was the top dog, Tim, outside of Gaza. So he was the number one guy in Hamas. Of the top five, okay, let's go down who the top five leaders were. You get Ismail Haniyeh, number one, overall leader of Hamas based in Qatar. Yahya Sinwar, leader of Hamas in the Gaza Strip. He's still at large. Mohammed Deif, commander of Hamas military wing and the Al-Qassam brigades, likely killed on July 13th in that airstrike in Khan Yunis. And then you have Khaled Mashal, who is he was former overall leader and remained influential in the political bureau, and Saleh al-Aruri, who was killed back in January, was the deputy leader of Hamas political bureau and was based in Beirut. He was killed there in Beirut in an IDF airstrike in January. So 3 of the top 5 Hamas leaders are already dead. They've got 2 more to go. And it'll be a happy day in Israel when Yahya Sinwar meets his maker, for sure. Good morning from Methville, Florida. Okay. Let's see what other questions we got here. Get Turkey out of NATO. That would be a really good idea, Seth. Turkey does not belong in NATO any longer. Turkey is a Muslim Brotherhood, ISIS supporting country. And why do we have a country who literally pays money to ISIS to help support them in NATO? There would be an easy way for the U.S. president to get Turkey out of NATO, or at least to sideline them, and that would be to simply prohibit any U.S. military from having any dealings with anybody from Turkey. Now, we still have Incirlik Air Base in Turkey, and this is probably why we haven't done that yet, because we've got several nuclear missiles stationed at that air base. That was not good long-term thinking. Stationing nuclear missiles in a Muslim country, probably not the smartest thing the United States has ever done. And now we really can't get them out. Getting them out of Turkey would be very, very difficult because we get the majority of our electricity for that airbase at Incirlik from Turkey. We do have generators, backup generators on the base, but they don't have enough fuel to last more than a few days or perhaps a week or two. And Turkey could lock down that base and just not let anybody out. And we can't sneak those nuclear warheads out of Turkey, out of that base, without them knowing, because these things are the size of a Suburban. And they obviously keep an eye on it and would know. So in some sense, Turkey kind of has America by the short hairs here. And but if we wanted to kick them out of NATO, all we'd have to do is just ban any U.S. military, any U.S. diplomat from having any dealings with Turkey, and they'd be completely sidelined. There are some reasons why Europe wants Turkey in NATO, but I think those reasons are diminishing greatly as time goes on, for sure. Okay. Yeah, one tired mama, what are you up, feeding babies this early? Why are you awake? Go back to bed. Okay, thanks for this brilliant, informative update, Bob. You're welcome. Question: how did the projectile that killed and injured so many at the soccer field get through Israeli defenses? Well, that close to the border with Hezbollah, with Lebanon, they don't have a lot of warning. And it is certainly possible that the missile that struck, it was a large missile, and it was fired most likely off the back of a truck. Just came in so quickly. When I've been up in the north in Israel, there have been many times where you hear explosions and the alarm never even goes off because the explosion comes so quickly that they don't even have time to hit the alarm. And so you wouldn't have time to get to shelter. Now, I believe the alarm did go off for this rocket, but went off only seconds before the rocket landed, and the kids didn't have time to get to the shelter, and that's why so many were killed and injured. As far as the Iron Dome not taking it down, I don't know. I think that is being investigated. I'm not sure why the Iron Dome did not happen to take that one down, but it's very unfortunate that it didn't. Pray for Venezuela. I talked about Venezuela on my live on CBN's YouTube channel yesterday, and so you can go watch that. I've done a lot of reporting on Venezuela. Actually, if you go to chuckholton.com, you can watch a report that I did from the border with Venezuela in the town of Cucuta. Late at night, downtown, there are hundreds and hundreds of Venezuelan mothers and young women who come across from Venezuela to work as prostitutes in Cucuta, Colombia. And I went down and spoke with some of them, and the report on that is up on my chuckholton.com page, on my locals page, and you can go watch that if you are a subscriber. If you're not a subscriber, you'll have to wait for me to put it out on YouTube, and hopefully it'll be out on YouTube today or tomorrow. I'm waiting for YouTube to remonetize it because they pretty much any video I put up now, they just demonetize it, and I have to dispute that demonetization. The initial demonetization comes from an algorithm, and I must be on a list or something because it just demonetizes anything we put up. The lives, not so much, but any video I upload just gets demonetized, no matter what. I did one that was a Bible study, and it got demonetized. So I have to ask for a human to review it, and then they usually get remonetized, and then I can put them out. Okay, question. Since Israel took out this Hamas leader in Tehran, does that mean Iran will think twice before striking Israel again? No, I think it means they'll think once before striking Israel again, Tim. As I said, I think it is a foregone conclusion, without a doubt. We can expect that Iran is going to attack Israel directly with missiles again. We saw back in April that giant barrage of more than 300 rockets and missiles and drones coming out of Iran. That's the first time that they have ever struck Israel like that. And fortunately, most of them were shot down or never even made it into Israeli airspace to begin with. A lot of them fell short inside Iran. Most likely, the only people who were killed in that attack in April were Iranians in Iran, perhaps some people in Iraq or Jordan, but we would have heard about that. If people in Iran were killed by missiles falling short, you can bet that news is not going to come out, not going to be reported. But we should expect another direct strike from Iran coming toward Israel. And now, without a doubt, we are going to see a large strike coming out of Lebanon as well because of the the Hezbollah leader who was killed just yesterday as well, just last night. So it is going to heat up. I'm supposed to go back to Israel around the 10th or 11th of August, and I may have to move that up because things are really starting to boil over there, without a doubt. Just see if there's any more questions here. Man, you guys are... Good morning. Okay. Our country is not an Islamic country. Yes, the majority of people are Muslims. We're a secular... there's somebody from Turkey. Well, you're welcome to your opinion. My opinion is that Turkey is a radical Islamic country. And maybe many of the people in Turkey do not agree with that. Do not agree with the fact that their president is a radical Islamic jihadi. And I get it that you're not happy with Erdogan. You should be careful saying that because it's likely that you and your whole family will disappear. Turkey has more journalists in prison than any other country on planet Earth. And that's one of the reasons why I can't go to Turkey anymore, because I have done a lot of negative reporting about Turkey especially after they killed one of my friends in a drone strike in Syria a couple of years ago. But Yasmin says the country itself is not an Islamic country. Well, if you want to call it secular, go ahead. I don't think Erdogan would call it secular. He's the president. Obviously, it's not a place that's real friendly to anybody who's not Muslim. It's not friendly to Christians. It's certainly not friendly to Armenians. Matter of fact, just try saying the words Armenian and genocide together anywhere in Turkey and see if you and your whole family don't go poof, because it's illegal to even mention the Armenian genocide in Turkey, even though the eastern third of Turkey was Armenia up until the Ottomans took over. That was the Armenian Empire for like millennia before the Ottomans showed up. And so, look, there are many good people in Turkey. I've met a lot of them. I've been to Turkey multiple times myself, and I don't have anything against the people of Turkey. Incidentally, neither do a lot of other people around the world. But the bottom line is your government, it's kind of like saying that the United States is a Christian country. Well, it's not really. We do have a large number of Christians who live in the United States, but the government of the United States is not Christian in any way, shape, or form. We still have a culture and laws and legal system and everything that benefit from the Christian heritage upon which our country was founded. But our country is no longer a Christian country. You can't say that. There are, I wouldn't even say a majority of people in the United States are devout Christians anymore. There are probably a majority in the United States who call themselves Christians, but many of them call themselves Christians because mommy and daddy were Christian. But unfortunately with Christianity, you have to paddle your own canoe. You don't get to be a Christian just because your mommy and daddy were Christians or grandma was a Christian and took you to church or Sunday school when you were a little kid. Christianity is something that's a very personal thing. On the flip side of that, Turkey, you might say there are a lot of people in Turkey who are very secular Muslims or even atheists. But if the government itself is proclaiming itself to be Muslim, well, then it's kind of hard to say that that country is not a Muslim country. Okay. Interesting conversation. Thank you for your comment, Yasmin. I appreciate that. Let's see. Many wolves in sheep's clothing around us all, pretending to be Christians. Turkey is a colonial state. The USA has separation of church and state. Actually, Anomi Toponomi, is that really your name? There is no place in the U.S. Constitution or the Bill of Rights that mentions the separation of church and state. As a matter of fact, it's almost the opposite of that. The Constitution of the United States says that the government will make no law. This is in the First Amendment to the Constitution, that will make no law oh gosh, I just spaced on that. Okay, we're going to go over here and find it. I'll read it to you exactly. Congress cannot make laws that establish a national religion or prohibit the free exercise of religion. Okay, so the First Amendment, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press or of the right of the people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. Now, I guess you could say that the separation of church and state comes in that first part of the sentence, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion, meaning that the government of the United States cannot force you to belong to the Lutheran Church or something like that. You can't be forced to belong to the Church of England. But at the same time, they can't prohibit you from belonging to the Church of England or the Lutheran Church if you want to. And so there are some nuance there, but it often gets sort of misrepresented as the separation of church and state, meaning that you cannot have any religious expression inside the U.S. government or on any government property or anything like that. That is actually not the case. We are free to exercise because religion is a very personal thing. If I'm a government employee and I want to wear a cross on my T-shirt to work, I have every right to do that and express my religion the way I see fit, even though the government cannot force me or force anyone to belong to my religion. Okay. Yeah, please hit that thumbs up, folks. I've got to get going here pretty quick because I've got a doctor's appointment today. Well, Rocky Vid says, I think Iran will use its proxies. Of course they will. They are going to push all of their proxies. So the Houthis are going to send more missiles. The Hezbollah is going to send more missiles. If there are any rockets left in Gaza, they might get fired as well. Everybody is going to be really, really mad about this, except the Israelis themselves. And we should be very glad that the Israelis managed to do this. Question, can Turkey be taken out of NATO if they fight against Israel? It would be a good argument for taking Turkey out of NATO if they fight against Israel, for sure. And the thing is, he's a bag of hot air. Turkey does not have an expeditionary military. So how is Turkey going to attack Israel if they can't get their troops to Israel? If you look, we go back to the map here. Let's see if we can find our map. Okay, we look at our map and the map, Iraq map. Okay, Turkey is up here and Israel's down here. So Turkey would have to go through part of Syria and all of Lebanon to get there, or have to launch ships or something and come over here. I think Americans have a hard time understanding this, sometimes because we do have an expeditionary military, but you have to remember not everybody does. So not everybody has a bunch of aircraft carriers. The United States has got 12 carrier groups. Most countries don't have that. There are not a lot of countries in the world who can threaten countries that are not contiguous to their own borders. And Turkey is one of those. So Turkey is certainly threatening and attacking Syria, the Kurdish part of Syria, what they call Rojava, and even northern Iraq right now. And they've been doing that for years. But Turkey is not likely to be able to get its troops to Israel. Now, perhaps they could ship some weapons down to Hezbollah. I have not seen any proof of them doing that, or even any reporting that they've done that. If they were to start arming declared terrorist groups like Hezbollah, that would be an easy way for them to get kicked out of NATO. Virtually all of NATO would turn against them at that point. And so I don't think it's likely that Turkey is going to start sending fighter jets. That would be really the only thing that they might be able to do would be to send fighter jets over the Mediterranean and go strike at Tehran. But again, Turkey is, they have to walk a fine line if they want to stay part of NATO. And I don't think it's likely that they will actually do that. Erdogan is pandering to his base and is, saying what he thinks they want to hear. But I don't think it's likely that they're going to attack Israel. At least I hope not. Persians are proud, intelligent people. Yes, they are. And Yasmin says, our economy is very bad, and I don't think Erdogan will go to war. Well, Yasmin, that is perhaps why Erdogan is saying what he's saying, because the economy is bad, and he's trying to bolster his popularity inside Turkey by threatening Israel. But he's probably not going to do that. So I'm glad to have you on here, Yasmin. It makes for a very interesting conversation. Okay, if they get Yahya Sinwar, will that be the end of it? No, I don't know that it'll be the end of it. That certainly will be the beginning of the end of it, Chuck. The end of the war in Gaza. If they kill Yahya Sinwar, then they only have one more guy to get, and he's in Qatar. And so they still will have to contend with the remaining Hamas fighters, and there are still thousands of those, a couple thousand at least, maybe as much as 6,000. So if they kill the leadership, then they're going to still have to go in and mop up the rest. They're going to have to go in, they're going to have to stay in Gaza. They're going to have to determine how Gaza is going to be led from here on out. Are they going to allow a coalition of Muslim countries that are moderate to come in and, sort of take over Gaza? Or are they going to allow the Palestinian Authority to come in and do it? They haven't, there's a lot of things that have been talked about, but not a lot that's been decided at this point. And so it's, look, this war is not anywhere near over. The war in Israel, that Israel is fighting, is going to go on for years. Barring some absolute miracle of diplomacy, this war is going to go on for years. It's going to change and evolve. The war will very soon turn its attention to the north, and they're going to have to do to southern Lebanon what they did to Gaza. It's going to be much harder and much longer for them to do that. So we've talked about this just a couple days ago, that when Israel decides it's time to go into southern Lebanon, it's going to get really, really complex. And one of the reasons that they haven't done it yet is likely that they are continuing to train, continuing to arm, and waiting on the results of the presidential election here in the United States to see if they're going to get any support or not, depending on who the new president will be. That says it's more likely that the wider war between Israel and Hezbollah will kick off next spring if the Israelis have any say in the matter. But because of those very reasons that I just pointed out, there's pressure on Hezbollah and on Iran to start that war sooner by attacking Israel. And that's what we've been seeing. I mean, we've been seeing Hezbollah ramping up its attacks month by month. We've been seeing Iran ramping up not only attacks, but rhetoric, and trying to get this war to kick off, because they know that their best chance they don't have much of a chance of wiping out Israel. They don't have much of a chance at all. There's a very, very, very low chance that Israel will cease to exist and become a Muslim country called Palestine. Not going to happen. But their best chance of hurting Israel the most comes by making Israel kick off the war in the north before the end of this year, because they will be less trained, less equipped, and perhaps have less support from the United States under a Biden-Harris administration than they would under a Trump-Vance administration. So this is why we're seeing these attacks ramp up, and I really believe that. Now, why is Islam in one agenda for war, Israel and Islam, no look Christian, and Jews only pray for Elohim, law, justice, truth? Okay, so this looks like there's somebody from Ukraine that's trying to ask a question. Adrien, you might want to run that question through Google Translate one more time, because I don't understand what you're trying to ask. Reports of explosion in Damascus suburb with heavy Iranian presence. That, I think, is called Tuesday in Damascus. Looking at Bible prophecy, is there any possibility to see yet where 10 kings who were never kings get authority, just like Gaza is going to be recognized out of air? I'm not the biblical prophecy expert, and there are other people that can answer that question a whole lot better than I can. So I'm not going to answer that question because I don't know. Is Hamas still sending bombs from Gaza? Well, some, much less. I haven't noticed any lately. I'm going to go look up on the shofar screen here. I got to watch my times. I got to get out of here. Okay, so looking at shofar here. I got to make sure I'm not still on my map. Yeah, shofar app. There you go. Confrontation line is in the north. Okay, so that just gets us to yesterday. All of those attacks are from the last 24 hours right there. All those different places have been under alerts just in the last 24 hours. Okay, so things have been really heating up there. Going back 3 days ago, okay, the last attack out of Gaza was 3 days ago, coming just from Beit Hanun there into, that's Ashkelon area, okay? That's just south of Ashkelon. And Sderot is over here on the map. Okay, so there are very few rockets coming out of Gaza. Let's see, so that was 3 days ago. Before that, last Friday, there was one. So very few attacks coming out of. Good question. Thank you for that. Okay, folks, I've got to run. I really appreciate all of you. Please go ahead and hit that subscribe button and the like thing over there, that little thumbs up. That helps a lot. And if we get more breaking news on this, I might go on again today. This is big news. Ismail Haniyeh, #1 guy in Hamas, just assumed room temperature in Tehran at 2 o'clock this morning after an airstrike on his house. So the moral of that story is, don't be a terrorist. Your house might evaporate. All right. God bless you. Take care. We'll see you.